Hello, you beautiful Life Path 11 person. Welcome to your year ahead taroscope with me, Raphael from Radiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. So I just want to say to all of you that watched the Life Path videos throughout 2022 that supported my work, it means the absolute world to me. So I just want to say a massive heartfelt thank you from my heart to yours. Just to say I loved reading your comments. I loved that you check in month by month to say, hey, listen, you know, this happened exactly like you said it would, or this happened but it was the month after. It really does keep me on, you know, it keeps me knowing that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And it also shows me where I maybe need to brush up my skills a little bit as well. But I just want to say massive thank you to all of you out there. And I really hope that these serve you just as well this year, if not even better. With that said, I would like to bless my cards and the reading itself with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise. They help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. So this year, my dear Life Path 11 people, if you have been with me long enough, you know I always have a bunch of notes handy somewhere, right? So what we're looking at here is how 2023, which is a Neptune ruled year, I might add, is going to interact with your very own number, and you are also ruled by Neptune, so you've got a double dose of this energy this year, which means you're going to, this can be an amazing year of transcendence for you, absolutely, but it can also be a year that makes you hypersensitive to people, places, things, environments, energies. This year, you know, your natural born empathy, and most Life Path 11 people are natural empaths. The challenge that you might have this year is being able to filter out other people's stuff and your own stuff. Spiritual Science 101, build a bubble, build a shield around yourself. If you haven't built that technique, if you haven't heard of that technique, you shouldn't be playing around with any form of gift or energy work, or even card reading or numerology, whatever it might be. Like, if you don't know those kinds of basics, this would be a really good year to get into those kinds of things. How to shield, how to protect yourself, how to wall off other people's energies and feelings and thoughts from your own. This is stuff that is super basic, and if you don't have those basics down, I advise you this year to get really good at them, all right? Because this is going to be quite an intense year in terms of spirituality. Now, Neptune isn't all bad. Two things though, before we go into the good side of it, what you might want to be aware of is that this year, because you are Neptune ruled and the year is as well, toxicity is absolutely a thing. So if there are things that you know you're allergic to, if you know that there are things that you shouldn't eat, this year they could really wreak havoc on you. So just be mindful of that. And anyone, right, or any place that you feel is toxic, this year you're going to feel it even more, and you might say to yourself, okay, you know what, I have to cut this thing, this person, this place out of my life. Now, for other things that you need to know, this year you are being invited to let things go. Let it go, let it go. All right, to release, to surrender to the current of life. This is something that you guys tend to be able to do quite well anyway, but this year it's more going to be kind of like it's not just a go with the flow energy. It's a case of you have to learn how to surrender. You have to learn how to let things go and, you know, let them up to God, the universe, right? Let go and let God, as the saying goes, you know, or the universe, or Allah, Buddha, Chi, whatever you believe. This is also a year where, like, the way that you succeed this year is by giving of yourself to the world. Again, this is something that you have in bags anyway. You tend to be quite altruistic, but this year it's kind of, it has to be more conscious rather than something that you do on, you know, on autopilot. And it really is through giving to others or giving to the world that you succeed. Now, unless you're in a personal year 1, personal year 3, or personal year 5, think more about others than you do yourself this year, and you will always be going in the right direction. That being said, it doesn't mean that you should just give and give to the point of depletion. You will need to firm up your boundaries this year. Bubble building, shielding, psychic protection, you know, personal protection. If you don't do these things already, get to it, all right? This is the year to really put those things in place. If you've been with me long enough, I've been talking about 2023 from 2020, in fact, from 2019. I've been talking about this year and what I feel like it might bring and how it might show up for a lot of us. And I've encouraged everybody, by the time we get to 2023, you're going to need to have that spiritual practice, whatever it might be, as big or as an elaborate or as small and focused and, you know, devotional as it can be. It doesn't matter how big or bold it is. It just matters that it's strong, that it's in place, and it comes from a place of earnest. If you're in a personal year 6 or 9, boundaries, really important this year. And then this year, your charitable spirit will definitely be called on. Projects with children, you know, people that are less fortunate than yourself, projects with animals, all these things are really highly favored for you this year. Remember who you are and what you wanted before the world told you what you could have. I'm going to say that again. Remember who you are and what you wanted before the world told you what you could have. All right, this is a year to get back to that. A journaling practice will really help you this year, especially to really get clear on what you think, what you feel, why you think and feel that way. Your outlook is naturally optimistic, but just don't let that make you foolhardy this year, right? You might have a tendency to be like, yeah, you know, I can do that. It's going to be absolutely fine. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, that one really probably wasn't my best or finest moment, all right? Because you've got a double hit of this Neptunian energy as well, it is going to require a strong hand on the tiller to steer the ship through the seas. Neptune rules the seas or the water. Water is emotions, energy, feeling, all of that. It's a bit, you know, a bit much more of that this year. And so you're going to need either a really strong anchor, spiritual practice, or you'll, you know, it would be wise for you to have, a strong guiding force. All right. Now, in terms of your sectors, this year, your money and your resources might feel like they're not your own. So some of you may come up against not a challenge, but well, yeah, the challenge of needing to be financially responsible for somebody else. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're assuming financial, you know, that you have to pay for them. It could be that you're having to manage somebody else's money this year for any number of reasons, right? This is a really good year not to waste things, especially like if you've got stuff that you want to get rid of. I would definitely say to you, don't throw it out. Give it away, upcycle it, give it to a thrift store or a charity shop. That's what we call them here in the UK. All of that kind of stuff. If you need to buy things this year, buy secondhand. You'll do really well out of that kind of stuff. What I will say to you as well, fix your emotional state. That is the key to everything for you this year. Your emotional state is going to be driving everything. And so therefore you need to be on top of it. All right, in terms of love, right? So in terms of partnerships, what's really happening here is you and your partner are getting out of ruts by really connecting to new places and people. All right, so this could be a year where you say, okay, you know what? We're not doing the same old same anymore. Or maybe you're taking stock of what has become monotonous. You're starting to notice, okay, we're in a bit of a rut. We're just doing the same old same and it's not really enjoyable anymore. What I've also got here as well, you're being asked to excite your daily routines with new places and people. Love requires that you bury old hurts and wounds, hatchets or issues. So if there's something in the relationship that's almost like the unspoken thing in the room between you, this is the year for you to fix that stuff. Either fix it or forget it, as the saying goes. If you're single, not necessarily a great year to start a new relationship unless you're in a personal year 2 or a personal year 6. Those are the exceptions, but outside of that, it's not a great time for new love. So mix and mingle, have fun. All right, warnings. Probably not a good year to start a brand new business unless you're in a 1, 4 or 8 year. Maybe a 6. 6 could be a little bit dicey. So if you're in a 1, 4 or an 8 year, this could be a good year to start something new. It's also as well, unless you're in a personal year 1, don't do it on your own. If you are starting something new, do it with others. This year is asking you to collect old rewards and efforts take stock of your journey. So what has worked so far in your work, in your profession, in your career, in your business? What are the things, the lessons, the wisdom that you actually want to take with you that are supporting you in what you want to do? And what is it that you're kind of ready to say, you know what, that doesn't work for me? And then finally, no matter how weird it feels, embrace the closing down of old cycles and patterns. When it comes to work will likely see you feel like you're giving a lot more to the world, like you're ready to share more with the world. It may be that there's more demand on you, your gifts, your skills, your abilities. Don't let that stop you from giving, right? Pour yourself into everything that you do. Pour yourself properly into it. Like, inject everything that you do with a little bit of who you are. And the reason I say this is the more you give this year, the more you're going to get. And that sounds like a cliche, but this year it really isn't for you. All right, so let's get into your card. So you're going to get one destiny card, one direction card per month. And remember, the first card out, it kind of typifies what the whole year is going to be about for you. All right, so let's see what's coming up. Now, what you need to know, all right, what you need to know, I'm hiding it from you. What you need to know is we start the year with a Mars retrograde in the sign of Gemini. We're also starting the year with a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. So that sort of fast push, you know, that like, yes, we're exploding into a new year, new things are happening, that might not necessarily be there. It might not necessarily be present, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. What it means is that you have time to figure out what your steps are before the year really starts to pick up steam. And if I'm completely honest with you, I don't really feel that 2023 starts until March, and we'll get to why in a bit. But your first card out for the year ahead is the Magician card, which is kind of an energy that you know very well. You're in 11, so double one. The Magician card is number one. It's also about magic, mystery. It's also about true spiritual power. This is something this year that you can truly master or work on or towards. For a lot of you, this is you being presented to the world, right? So over the course of this year, don't be surprised if you become a teacher, a mentor, a speaker. Maybe you're going to see yourself writing articles, sharing more about what you are about with the world. Somehow, over the course of this year, more of who you are is going to be presented to the world, and having those shields, those protections, those bubbles of being able to protect yourself from stuff that is projected at you or onto you is going to be vital. If you haven't got this stuff in place already and you're a life path 11, I'm going to be really honest with you. You know, Rafi, sometimes I give you that tough love. You slacking. All right. If you haven't got this stuff down pat already, what have you been doing? What have you been doing? All right. Now, I've told you off. I will be nice. I'm sorry. All right, for your clarifying card and your clarifying energy, the other thing with that Magician card as well, in January, okay. All right, you see that? Jumping cards. So there's three of them, and I'm going to take the one that jumped out face up, right? So for this, you've got the Page of Swords. So it's not technically a time sequence, but I am going to mention it just in case, all right? So pay attention to what's coming up in January for you guys, because you might be revisiting it in June, all right? It's a possibility. Maybe in June, possibly in September as well. We shall see. Now, that being said, paperwork, documents, signing new contracts, all of those things are possible here in January. This also suggests as well that over the course of this month, you're going to be really figuring out what your own voice is, what you want to say to the world, what you want to share with people, what you feel ready to share about your own story, about your own history. All of this stuff in January, you're going to be in really deep thought around this stuff. And it's like, okay, you know what? I feel like I'm ready to present this aspect of who I am. It would not surprise me if a lot of you are talking about coaching, speaking, writing, communications of all kinds at this point. Maybe for some of you, you're aligning with a really powerful person, somebody that can either help you or play an assisting role, or maybe you are becoming that person and you're realizing your own power. January is going to be a really strong start to the year for you personally. There are a few numbers, actually, a few life paths that have, it's like regardless of what the energy of the year is doing, it's like they come into the year all guns blazing. So I'm intrigued. I'm here for it. So as we come into February, you have the Empress. Look at that, right? So in line with a lot of the professional career / academic changes that are happening in January, February could very well see you making some sort of aesthetic or image change, right? This might be how you present yourself, how you look, how you dress. It's very possible. This could also be a month where you gain some really powerful piece of information, some juicy tidbit that, you know, maybe not everybody is privy to. It can also be a powerful month of abundance as well. You've got this with the Six of Wands. I mean, okay, so some of you are planning a trip in February. This will literally be like, maybe you're making the arrangements, maybe you are planning on looking on places to go, because it's with the Empress and the Six of Wands. The Six of Wands is the heat. The Empress is like the gorgeous, lush, fertile sort of places. So your Bali, your Fiji, your South America, your your Bali, Fiji, South America, oh gosh, Singapore even, maybe not Singapore actually because it's the Empress, but even still places that are hot, tropical, lush climates. It looks like some of you are planning a trip, maybe some of you are going on this trip. The image change that you're putting in place at this moment in time, I think is really, it's like once you complete this part of it, it's like all of the changes that you make professionally or academically, you kind of then start to believe them yourself. It's like, you know, when you say to somebody like a million times, you're really beautiful, or you're really this, or you're really that, and they don't believe it. And then one day something happens, or maybe they change something about their routine or their day, and all of a sudden, like, you can just see the newfound confidence kind of settle on them. I love this. I think it's wonderful. Now, as we come into March is a packed month. May is a packed month. October is a packed month. These are big astrological points of the year. So I want to give you a little bit of a heads up. Pluto will be moving out of the sign of Capricorn and into the sign of Aquarius. Saturn will be moving out of the sign of Aquarius and into the sign of Pisces. As I've said in all of my videos, Sky Papa's going to be drunk, and I am so totally here for it. I think it's just going to be a bit easier on us, but who knows, maybe I'll be wrong. And then finally, Mars will be moving out of the sign of Gemini and into the sign of Cancer. This is a big deal, and the reason this is a big deal, Mars hates to go retrograde. We start the year with Mars retrograde in the sign of Gemini. Mars doesn't necessarily do very well in the sign of Gemini. And the reason this is important is because, yeah, like Mars likes to focus on one thing and to do it really well and, you know, get in, maybe, you know, make it happen, smash down the door, bam, 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 let's get it done. Whereas Gemini is like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and oh, butterfly, right? It just goes in too many different directions. And so it's a frustrated Mars. It's been in Gemini at this point for like 7-8 months. And so we're all going to be feeling this kind of like, ugh. When it goes into Cancer, Mars will then have that one thing that it can focus on. Now it's technically coming into its sign of Fall, right? Where it doesn't do its best work. But I actually believe Mars, once it comes into Cancer, is going to be like, finally, I know what to focus on. I've got one thing to focus on and I can do that really well. If you want to find out how these are going to speak to, all of these astrological transits, by the way, the big ones anyway, are going to speak to your sign. This year, your sign taroscopes for your sun, your moon, or your ascendant, they're up and out there for your purchasing pleasure. There'll be a link in the description box below, or one of those things that floats above my head. What I will say to you is, you're getting the 90-minute video, including a tarot breakdown, the lunations, the eclipses. There's going to be an eclipse special part of that video. It's a separate video. I'm not putting that out on any of my other platforms this year. So if you want to get that heads up, and it's an interesting one, trust me, you're going to have to purchase these, right? You can get one for $4.99. You can get your big 3, sun, moon, and ascendant for, I think it's like $14.97, or the whole bundle of all 24 for all 12 for $24.99. Again, link in the description box below. Oh, and there's also a printable PDF that's like 19+ pages long that's going to give you all info of how these big transits are affecting your sign specifically. With that said, for March, you've got the star card, right? So look at this. This is, for some of you, potentially you are either, whatever trips you're planning in February, maybe they're going ahead in March. For others, this is literally a month where you are starting to understand what has been set into motion in January. It's like you're now starting to see, okay, this is where all of this is going. This is you starting to become a big part of a community. Maybe you're starting your own. This could also see you, for some of you, launching a website. That could be February as well. Maybe you're working on a website, working on something, beautifying it, making the aesthetic really perfect, all of that kind of stuff. The other thing for March as well, it's like whatever's happening around this time for you, it really is bringing a magical energy to the forefront. You're really feeling this kind of like hope and this optimism. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Not only is the future bright, but I've got people and connections that are helping me make the best of what's available to me at this moment in time. On top of that, you have the Ace of Cups. I mean, right, look at that. That's stunning. All right, so whatever you're launching, if you have a plan to launch a website, a business, March is a fantastic time to do so. I will say to you, with this, for some of you, this could be a friend becomes a lover, or a lover becomes a friend. You know, like there's something here with, like, it's almost like a role reversal within a friendship tie. I will say to some of you as well, this could also be, if you've been trying for children and you're going down the route of IVF, March is the time where it will take. This is where pregnancy can happen. I will also say to you as well that your community, or the community or the collectives that you're a part of, will really be very supportive to you at this time. Now, as we come into April, April's a big month, and the reason it's a big month is because we've got the first new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Aries. This is the first one out of the cycle. It's kicking off that whole new cycle of eclipses that we're going to have in Aries and Libra. Pay attention to what's happening around this one, and the reason I say that is because it's going to show you what you're getting more of throughout this year, but also into 2024. So it's like a universal heads up, which could be great. All right, for April, you've got the Sun card, right? Light, heat, blessings, joy, abundance. This right next to the Star card, and with the Ace of Cups, if you're studying astrology, if you're practicing astrology, if you're planning to start an astrology business, etc., March and April are good times for you to start sharing these things with the world, or they could just be a big part of your life. April, you've got the Knight of Cups with the Sun card. April, you are traveling, right? So the month out of all of these where I would say you are likely most to travel will be April. February, you could be traveling, but it's like you're finalizing plans and details. March could be where you're connecting with things or people from different places. But if it comes down to like really getting on the plane, getting in the car, April is your month. You've got this with the Knight of Cups as well, which means that April will bring you a solid offer. Something that somebody presents you with, an offer, a contract, a job, a shout out, a feature on a podcast, or even on a YouTube channel, right? Look at this, it's phenomenal. That is a solid offer, and it's like whatever it is that's being offered to you, it's happening in the light of day, which means you don't have to be like, oh, you know, what's the strings that are attached to it? It's like whatever is being offered it's pure, right? I mean, first of all, it's the Knight of Cups. Second, it's the Sun card. Like, trust me, whatever or whoever presents to you at this time can be trusted. All right. Now, for May, a packed month, right? This is the second packed month of the year. We've got a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Taurus. We've got Jupiter moving into the sign of Taurus. This is a big deal because as it goes into Taurus, even when it retrogrades, you know, Jupiter's done this thing where it's retrograded out of one sign and into another, or back into another. This time, once it goes into Taurus, it's staying in there right the way through until 2024. So that's a big deal. Also, we've got a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio. So this is the last one in that Scorpio axis. and then the last Taurus one will happen in October. So May is a packed month, all right? And I've said as well, because I've done all of these, so now I have the overview, if you like. May to August seems to be the challenging period of 2023. For this, you have the Strength card. So you're going to have to find your guts and your courage to continue on with something or to get something started at this time. I would say this might be a time where you're finalizing the details of something and it's like, okay, this is becoming real now. It's, you know, it's not just a thought or, you know, a wish or a desire. Like, this thing is becoming real. So you've got this here with the Hanged Man. One thing that I do want you to be really careful with in May is toxicity. All right, so you've got the Hanged Man here. The Hanged Man itself is Neptune ruled, right? I've already spoken to you about Neptune. The Strength card very often, you know, represents your physical body. In May, I want you to be really conscious of what you're eating, how you, if you're exercising at all. Like, this is a month to really look after your physical body. The Strength card with the Hanged Man, this could be that you're overexerting yourself in some way. Remember what I said to you about boundaries. Learn to say no, right? And if you find it hard to say no, just say, well, you know what, can I give it a thought and I'll come back to you. Something like that. Put something in place so you're not just saying yes to everything all over, you know, all over the place and burning yourself out. When it comes to the physical self, get your rest, get your water. Don't eat processed food. Like, this is a month to really pay attention to your physical health, because it looks like, now I'm not a doctor, I can't give you medical advice, but it does look like there's some potentially, yeah, like there's some potentially toxicity building up in the body. Now, completely unrelated to that, for some of you, this could be performance. This could be performance art. You could be doing something of like a performing kind of nature. You could be featured on TV, you could be featured on a podcast or something like that, maybe even on the radio. It's very possible with that combination of cards. And it's like, whatever you're doing, it might be bigger than what you're used to. And so it's like, oh, okay, this is, you know, this is uncomfortable, but there's growth there. For June, all right, this is where we get into it. You've got the Tower card, right? So shocking turns of events, let's say. Now, I did say to you, whatever's happening in January may be showing up here again in June for you. Interestingly enough, you've got the Tower. So there's going to be some moment of realization, a big realization. There's going to be some piece of the puzzle that finally becomes aware, that you become aware of. And at this point, you might be like, ah, okay, that's what the eclipse was about. Like, whatever that, you know, was for you. You've got this with the Four of Swords. Look, I really urge you for the month of May to look after your physical health, right? The Four of Swords, and I'm going to tell you a story. When I was 24, I kept getting this card come up in readings for me. And I remember having a Reiki session with this, and so once and this card came up for me a lot. And then after it came up and I kind of didn't really heed the warning, you know, I'm always in a rush doing this, going here, going there. I had a car accident and I damaged my Achilles tendon. And so I was basically laid up, like I couldn't do anything. I was forced to slow down. And then not long after that, I think it was probably about a year, I had a Reiki session from this little, she absolutely blew my socks off. Like, at one point I was like, any minute now I'm going to levitate off this table. She was a powerhouse. This small little old lady, she was wonderful. And while I was on the table, I was like shuddering and jerking. And she said to me, like, once I came round and the session was finished, she said to me, you're always in a rush. Slow down. And I really took that on board, because obviously I'd already had the thing, and this was the card that showed up consistently. You've got the Four of Swords here with the Tower card. Take time out in May, all right? Take some time to really look after yourself, to nourish your physical body. Take time to, you know, understand what your body doesn't like, that you're feeding it, all of that kind of stuff. And if you take that time in May, I think you might avoid the Tower in June. All right, so this is something, I'm not saying this to scare you, I'm saying it to say to you, you've got a heads up now. So when June comes around, don't just keep adding to the plate, and then it's like, okay, now I'm burnt out, I've got to stay laid up for 6 weeks or potentially 4 months. All right, take the break when it's needed. For July, you've got the Temperance card. Okay, so Temperance could literally be some kind, because it represents therapists, healers, counselors. It could literally be some form of rehabilitation. You've got this with the Ten of Pentacles. All right, look at that. So if there has been something on hold for you around finances and resources, I feel like that's some of you having some kind of energy work around your money or your finances, which is very, very interesting to me. Now, the other thing with the Ten of Pentacles, for some of you, you could literally, like July could literally be a time where you are choosing to build a house rather than buy one. Some of you could be purchasing land that you plan to build a house on. This is also money, finances and resources that are made from or through the healthcare industry in some way, shape or form. So I'm really intrigued by this to see sort of like how it's going to show up for you. For a lot of you as well, this would be a really good month to get your house looked at in terms of its feng shui. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, what is he talking about at this moment in time? But there's a lot of energetic stuff tied to home, property, place, all of that stuff. If you're buying land to build a house, etc., get the land blessed or cleared. And I don't care how that sounds to you. I mean, you're a life path 11. I can say this stuff to you. But yeah, this, wherever you're going, especially if you're moving home, changing home or all of that stuff, or you've got land and you think, you know, something about it just doesn't feel right. It needs to be cleansed. It needs to be cleared. All right. Whatever that means to you. For August, you have the High Priestess. Hidden things are revealed in August, and your own intuition is going to be fire at this time, and it's already very good. You've got this with the Queen of Wands. So for some of you, this could be, you know, certainly for those of you that are single, this could be that somebody presents to you and says, look, you know what, I've had a crush on you for the longest time. For the Queen of Wands is usually a fire sign person, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. This could be somebody that is coming forward to kind of really say to you, like, you know what, I really like you. Or maybe you are the person that's revealing the crush. It's possible. Now, because the Queen of Wands represents boundaries and the High Priestess is all things psychic, remember what I said to you about this year, your boundaries, your bubbles, your shields, your protections, they need to be really strong in August. This is a month where I feel like maybe somebody's trying to impose their will on you. Maybe they're trying to get something out of you or leaning on you to say, well, you know, I want you to do this or I need you to do that. And maybe it doesn't mesh with you. Maybe it does. If it does, then, you know, it is what it is, fair play. It might also be that for some of you that are partnered, married or in long-term commitments, you might have to fight a battle on your partner's behalf. There may be something here where it's like, wow, okay, this has come up and I need to deal with it. For September, we've got the third and final, not really the final, but the third and final Mercury retrograde of the year. That's going to be in the sign of Virgo. The next one will be in December, but I'm not counting that because it, again, kind of takes us into the year after. All right, for September, you've got the Justice card. So contracts, legalities, this may actually be where you are, it's weird because even without the clarifying card, I wonder if this is that you're ending a contract here or you're revising one in some way. And you've got this with the Tower card, right? That's the second time the Tower card has come up for you this year. And so September, this could be that you're hit with a legal proceeding. Maybe somebody decides they want to sue. It could be, you know, maybe you've made a purchase of some sort and, you know, there's a clause in there that you didn't realize. Maybe you know, start building a house on the land that you've purchased and, you know, they're saying, well, actually it's too big. You know, that's one story too many, or, you know, this, that and the other. It's like you come up against some kind of legal, like paperwork, documentation or dispute, and it comes out of the blue. You're not seeing it. It's like, wow, where the hell did that come from? So this is something to be mindful of. The other thing with the Tower card, it can be a big realization, and this is with the Tower card. This might be, for a select few of you, a realization about a partnership, collaboration, connection, or a relationship that you're like, this is done. and it might come about really suddenly. Like, you may not even see it. It might just be like, wow, okay, I can't believe this is happening. Maybe, you know, touch wood, I hope I'm wrong, maybe somebody says to you, you know what, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And it will come suddenly, right? I'm really sorry to say, I just have to call it as I see it. October, we've got 2 eclipses. The last eclipse in the Taurus cycle, Taurus and Scorpio cycle of that entire cycle. It's done at this point, right? On top of that, we've got the first eclipse in the sign of Libra, and these will be a big deal. If you want to know how they're speaking to you and your sign, you know what to do. For October, you've got the Chariot card, so you're taking a break here. I kind of feel like whatever is set into motion in September, in October, you're kind of saying, you know what, I guess it's time to get out of Dodge. This is time for me to leave. It also suggests to me whatever legal proceedings you might be hit with, or whatever legal snags might come up for you, they settle in your favor, all right? It'll come up in September. It might be really like, ugh, okay, this is awkward, this is, you know, heavy. And then in October, it's like it clears, it settles in your favor. You've got this with the Fool card. So for some of you, you're traveling to a new place in October, somewhere that you've never been before. It's not you going back somewhere. This is somewhere completely brand new to you. Yes, maybe you've researched it, maybe you've seen it, maybe it's on your bucket list, but you've never been to this place before. It's somewhere completely new. And I really like that. And also with the Tower card and this here, like I said, whatever contractual or legal issue or dispute comes up, not only does it settle in your favor in October, but it might turn out like, I don't know, maybe the judge says, oh, and by the way, this is just an example. You know what? Like, in fact, because you've wasted time and I'm going to award this person damages or whatever. Like, it could be like a real turn of events that you're just like, September, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And then October, you're like, okay, that's done now. And I can't believe that this is happening either. For November, you've got the Death card, endings, completions, culminations. Terminations as well. Remember, like the Death card, it can be conscious. Sometimes this is where we're presented with a choice to end something, to just kind of say, okay, this has served its purpose. For this, you have the Two of Pentacles. Whatever challenges or financial worries or issues you've had up until this point, November will see them come to an end. This is paying off a debt. Maybe it's the last mortgage payment for some of you. This is paying off, like financially, you're in a good space because it's like you're getting rid of a debt. You're paying off the last payment on your mortgage, on your car, on your whatever. My advice to you would be, whatever it is that you're paying off, don't replace it with something else. Just let it be, all right? Okay. And then for December, you have the Emperor. Okay, so, I mean, December, especially because of what's happening in November, it's not just that your money is good, but your living situation now is a lot more solid. So where you've been kind of in that tween place, going back and forth, to and fro, and worried about certain things. Okay, and then with this, you've got the Five of Cups. So your living situation is okay. One thing that I do need to make you very much aware of, I'm really sorry to say this, you've got the Five of Cups on top of the Emperor. You've got both of these next to the Death card. This could be the death of an important man in your life. This could be the death of a father, a grandfather, an uncle. Touch wood, in a woman's spread, usually the Emperor represents either her husband or the boss. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying for a select few of you, it is a possibility. And I gotta be honest with you, it may be that there are signs throughout this year, potentially in May, potentially in June, potentially in September, potentially even in November, where you're kind of like, okay, there were signs that this was coming up. So this is something, and it's not about living in fear. It's just like, I'll give you an example. For many of you, if you've been with me long enough, you know I predicted my own grandmother's death a few years back. And I knew it was coming. It's so weird because she was fine for a really long time. And then once I'd done the reading, I was like, okay, this is coming. And for me, it wasn't like, I didn't sit there and obsess about it. Yes, I was very sad, But when it all came about, it was like, it wasn't as painful to me because I'd already had the knowledge that, okay, this is happening, which means I could make the most of the time that I had with her. And that's what I did. This is something to be aware of. It's a possibility. Another way that this could show up for those of you that are studying or in some form of academia, this might be where you break ties with your school, your college, your university, and you don't go back. All right. For your key to the year, what might you need to know or to be aware of? I mean, it's interesting because there's not a lot about the wider world stage in this reading. Usually in the Life Path 11 stuff, like world events tend to show up. All right, so your Human Design Oracle deck card for your key to the year is nice. You've got that Gate 8 and contribution, and this really is about your unique contribution to the world. That's what's happening in January, and it's like, even with all of some of these ups and downs that are taking place, it's you showing yourself, sharing yourself with the world and letting people know, like, this is the human behind the person that you know. It's like you're meeting every single task and challenge head on, and you're finding a way to share the best of who you are with the world. So your challenge months that you need to be aware of, May and June potentially, September obviously, November and December could also be challenge months, right? But your power months, January, February, March, April, beautiful. I actually really like July. I'm kind of here for it. October, beautiful. There's just, I mean, it's a mixed bag for sure, but there's so many wonderful things here as well. It's not all doom and gloom, so don't chuck the whole reading out for the year. With that said, I look forward to seeing you guys in the comments, letting me know how this shows up for you, how it speaks to your life, and what it's going, you know, what it says about some of the plans that you have for 2023's world domination. With that said, I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Have a fantastic 2023. I send you so much love. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.